contact is through the PQV. And so let's talk about that. First of all, what are words that work with posture? Okay?
Oh, you're asking?
Well, sure, go ahead.
Oh, I can't promise you.
Can't promise you anything is probably the number one thing you say. I can't promise anything. There are no guarantees.
Selective. All right, everyone's got it.
These guys are selective, and you always refer the credibility to the people you're working with. It's not you. You guys are young, most of you. You're not going to have credibility owning a business. You don't need credibility to own a business. You're working with the business people who are doing it. You're referring to credibility. I can't promise you anything. These guys are selective. Maxim.
And sometimes we get overlooked, but they instead of we.
They. Use they, because it's not we. You don't want to be the business owner. They're selective. Can't promise you. You may not be a fit for what these guys are looking for. I can't promise. No guarantees, but, I got some information I can put you onto online, And then that's the first step of the interview process. There's another word. Interview. You keep referring to interview. And the other word you use all the time is filter. Everything we do is a filter. Now, posture works, and okay. Your hand's been up 4 times. I don't want to miss you, but
No, well, I mean, you always want to give it to them and then take it away. So
Give it to
say,
them.
But first,
all right.
I want to.
We're going to get to that. Give it to them and then take it away, and that's reverse sales, and that's the next thing I'm going to get to in a second. So you're ahead of me, so that means you're with me. So that's good. So, but understand the power of posture, because posture. How many times have you heard? This is not about convincing and selling. It's about show and go, not to convince and sell. Selling, trying to convince somebody to look at this is not relatable. And when you do something that people can't relate to, if it's not relatable, it's not what? It's not duplicatable. Posture is the truth, guys. That's what you got to realize. Posture is the truth. You don't want to, and you can't work with people if they're not teachable or motivated. Okay? So realize posture is the truth. And what posture does is it separates us from all these sales gimmicks and pyramids out there that really don't have a lot of credibility, that really don't work very well, unless you are what? Unless you are some slick, smooth, high-pressure salesperson. Most of these multi-levels don't work. And if they work, they're short-term. Okay? They don't work on a long-term basis. I don't know if we're going to be around that much longer. We've only been around 52 years and just did another $1 billion. Because why? Because we've got the #1 system in the world, and we've got the #1 corporate sponsor in the world. I mean, I could just go on and on, all the things we have. And the only comp plan that's ever been approved by the Federal Trade Commission is crazy. Why? Because it's not a pyramid, because it's legal, moral, because it's fair, because it's a win-win. It's a win-win. But you've got to know, because of that, you got the cookie. You got your hands in the most powerful, duplicatable business on planet Earth. How many times have you heard that? But it's the truth. And we have the track record. So place value on what you've got. Place posture when you're talking to people. Because when they know you don't need them, they're going to be more interested anyway. People are being sold junk all the time. And when they think you're too anxious and you're trying to get them in front of this, then they're going to pull away. So everything we do, we use those posturizing words. Now, let's go to the QI contact. The beauty of the QI system is it does empower even the new 18-year-old that doesn't have any credibility, because you're referring to credibility to the business people who are putting this thing together. You're part of a business development group or part of an entrepreneurial development group. Okay? So the first thing is, what do you say after somebody says, yeah, I'm looking? Because you're going to say something like, can't promise anything, but you ever look at other options or other ways of making money? And usually they're going to say, sure, or absolutely, or yeah, what have you got? And whether they ask you what you got or not, the next point is you want to move them to the, I've got 10 minutes of information online. You're going to move them towards the PQV, but, you may not. There's a segue there. Do you tell them something and then say, but I've got 10 minutes of information I can hook you up online with that I can log you into? Or, in other words, a lot of you might move right to that, and you can. But I've always given them something to hang their hat on, so to speak. Like, well, yeah, sure, I'm looking, what have you got? And I'll tell them what I got. But as Larry Winters always says, I tell them nothing or I tell them everything, right? So I'm not going to tell them exactly what I've got, but I'm going to give them, you all should have a 15-second or a 10-second overview of what you're doing. Now, there's a lot of different things you can say, but
Real quick, right on that point, what you're saying, when you tell them about, there's an info session, and Tuesday night, you ask them about their schedule, I've had, actually, one of the Liz's guests that was here tonight, as soon as I told her about the workshop, she's like, I'll be there. That's it. She's like, I'll be there. When, where, what, I'll be there. So she was very much looking, and then I took it back and said, okay, but
yeah,
before we
but
get
before
to
we
there.
do that, and that's what I'm going to get into too. But
Yeah,
when that's a looker. I mean, that's something that really,
I did the same thing.
yeah, it's
Someone in the
yeah.
workshop, whether you like it or
Right.
not.
But a lot of people are that in between, or a lot of people are curious, or a lot of people aren't lookers. But we got to separate the lookers from the non-lookers anyway. So here's what I do anyway. I've always given them something before I moved them to the PQV. I'll say something, and hey, well, what have you got? Well, we've actually, they've developed a system to drive traffic to companies' websites, and we do, those companies share revenues back with us as we drive them traffic. I've said that for a long time. Mike Kenny always says, and I'm going more towards this now, because it's actually, when I say we've got a system to drive traffic to websites, a lot of people say, well, it must be a software program or something. Some people look at that. So I'm telling them, I like Mike Kenny's, he's used this for a long time. So I'm moving more towards, we develop communities of people offline, and we show them how to do business online, because that's the direction business is headed. Does that make sense, John? And they always go, oh, yeah. They do. So again, I like that segue. I'm telling them something, because I think if you don't tell them anything, you just move them to the, I got some stuff online, maybe you're being a little evasive. Like, give them something, give them something. And if you might be saying something, counsel upline, we're not going to go through. I mean, there's a lot of different things you can say. But what I'm saying, so what have you got? After they've said, yeah, I'm looking, what have you got? Well, actually, what these guys have done is they've developed communities of people offline. They show them how to take their business online, because that's the direction business is headed. Does that make sense, John? Oh, yeah, and they usually say, yeah. Well, listen, I have 10 minutes of information I can log you into online. What did I say? I can log you into, because I'm not going to just send them a link. I got 10 minutes of information online that I can log you into, but before I do, actually, and then I back up, actually, there's a workshop that these guys are putting together, and you can say workshop or info session, whatever. I'm going more either one. Let's say info session, because that's what Kendris talks about, is info session. So, after I say, okay, because community's offline, taking them online to do business, because that's where business is headed. Okay, but actually, there's an info session these guys are doing Tuesday night at the Embassy Suites at 8 o'clock. Okay, but before you can get to that, I can probably get you into that. But before I do, there's 10 minutes of information online that I would need to log you into. And I'll kind of give you a kind of a conceptual overview. And then if you connect on some things on that, then it makes sense that we can probably get you into that workshop. Now, if you see that information online and you don't connect to anything, that doesn't make any sense to you, then you don't need to get to that workshop. Does that sound fair enough, John? I mean, this is kind of a filter. It saves you and I a lot of time, John. Does that make sense? So what you've done is you started with the close. The close is you'd like to get them into a workshop. There's a workshop I might be able to get you into. It's actually Tuesday night, 8 o'clock at the Embassy Suites. But before I can do that, there's 10 minutes of information online. I can log you into, if you connect on that, that's kind of a conceptual overview of what these guys are doing. If you don't connect on that, it doesn't make sense to go to Tuesday night. That sound fair enough? Again, that's posture. They always agree, oh yeah, that's fair. Well, I mean, nobody ever, no, that's not fair. And that's a filter. There's a word, posture. That's a filter. That saves you and I a lot of time, John, because if you don't connect on anything on that information, it doesn't make sense to get there, right? They agree, they love it. Now, by the way, would you have Tuesday night at 8 o'clock available? Now, you notice what I did. I didn't clear the night until I postured them. Then I went back to clear the night. If they don't have Tuesday night at 8 o'clock available, then I'm going to back up. Well, let me know when you can get a Tuesday night up, because, I don't want to PQV them until it's, a few days before the workshop. If you, and some of you I've seen, say, by the way, there's a workshop. Actually, it's 10 minutes. Well, let's back up. Yeah, they're looking, okay, what do you do? Tell them whatever, develop communities offline, show them how to take their business online. But actually, there's a workshop or info session Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. Would you have Tuesday night at 8 o'clock available? You're just direct inviting them. You're trying to direct invite them before you've postured them. Are you with me? Don't clear the night until you've taken it back away from them and told them they're going to have to qualify, connect on some concepts on 10 minutes of information. Then you go back and clear the night. If you clear the night before you've done the reverse sales, now do you understand why? Hey, there's a workshop I'd like to get you into, but before I do, there's 10 minutes of information online that you need to get through. If you don't connect the net, you don't need to go any further. You start with a close, then you take it away. And that's all from Gary Newell with the QI philosophy. He's a psychologist. He came up with this. It's excellent. And I think a lot of you, and we've got some of this online on our PQV walk-on, but I think we don't follow it. A lot of us don't follow it. That reverse psychology, this anti-sales. No salesman ever will tell you, there's something I'd like you to do, but you may not qualify for it. That's not sales. It's the reverse of sales. That's why that's the beautiful thing, and it works so beautiful. And you've heard me say this, and I've talked about it at workshops before here, at meetings after meetings, but some of you maybe haven't picked up the importance of that psychology. It's beautiful. But you got to use it. Now, did you also notice I said there's 10 minutes of information online that I can log you into? I said log you into. I'm not going to send them a link, okay? And I said 10 minutes of information. I did not say video, because there's all kinds of pyramids out there got a video. Come on, see my video. And it's not just a video. It's a video, and it's about 5 to 6, 7 minutes of things to read through. That information you read through, there's a lot of information there too. That's why I call it 10 minutes of information. Also, what else? There's so many different things here coming to mind. When I locked in, then set the appointment. Okay? And so when would you be in? And of course, by the way, if they say, well, just send me the link, that's easy. You've already said, no, like I said, I got to log you into it. This is an interview. It's an interview site too, and there's some things I would need to explain to you as you're looking at the screen as I log you on. I never have a problem with it once you explain it like that. I can't just send you a link. There's some things I would need to explain. This is kind of like an interview site. I need to log you in and explain you how to use it while you're looking at the, at the login screen or whatever. But and so, don't ever send that link to anybody. If you do, see me. No, we talked about that the other day, but anyway. Hold your questions to the end, because I think I might have everything, because we got a lot, and I'm going to try to get through this before 12:30. Okay, but these are good questions, some of them, but let me see if I can cover them, or we'll go back. Setting the appointment. So now they've agreed they want to get on this online interview, on the online information. So when would you be in front of your computer? Of course, it could be as you're talking to them, but that's, most of the time it's not. Whatever time they tell you, I know Mike likes 4 o'clock Friday. Okay, well listen, then give them a little time after that. If they say they're going to be there at 4 o'clock, then tell them, well, listen, I'll call you at 4:15. And by the way, if you don't hear from me by 4:15, if you don't hear from me, sometimes I get busy. I got a lot of things going on. Feel free to call me right after that. Okay. And Mike likes to use that a lot too, because it's kind of, lets them know you may not be able to get to them. A little bit of posture, but call me if you don't hear from me. But by the way, I am making a note at 4:15. Do you have somewhere you can note that on your iPad or your phone or whatever, or write it down like some people used to do? Because I'm pretty sure I'll be able to do that by 4:15. Okay. Try to nail that. Do some kind of an accountability thing there, because a lot of you are calling people and they're not there. So place some pretty good value on that. Are you pretty good, remembering this kind of stuff? Because I can tell you this, I'm only going to have a chance to call you once. All right? I'm not going to, that's another thing you can say as you're setting this up. I'm not going to be calling you a bunch of times. I just don't have time. Now, when you call them at 4:15 and they're not there, I'm going to leave a message, but I'm going to leave one message and tell them, hey John, we're going to walk you onto this interview site at 4:15. So give me a call back as soon as possible, If you're still interested, if I don't hear from you, I'm going to assume that you're, not interested in proceeding with the interview process. And again, I'm not going to keep calling you, that's for sure, but, give me a call when you can, okay? Appreciate it. Or what, not appreciate, maybe you shouldn't say appreciate it, but just give me a call. I'm trying to be too nice. Here, you got to always be careful, not be too nice. And I'm not rude. Posture's not rude. You always say it with a smile on your face, but it's the truth. Posture is the truth. You can't help people if they're not motivated or teachable. You've got to screen people and find people who are right. Because how much fun is this when you're working with the right people? It's a blast. And all it is going through the numbers. And here's the other thing, and we've all got to teach new people to understand this, and all of you to understand this, because some of you still might not. There is no rejection in this business if you're doing this right. Either people are looking or they're not. And when you working through this filter system properly, using the right verbiage, it's not on you. It's either they get it or they don't. It's no big deal. You're just going for no, and along the way you're going to get some go, yeah, I got a dream, and I'm not lazy, and I'm going to do what it takes. Now, we covered that. Now, when you do reestablish contact, let's say it's 4:15 Friday, and you call, and holy moly, they answer the phone. They're looking, they're ready, they're accountable. What's the first thing you do? Whenever you talk to a prospect, until that prospect's, been around for a few weeks, or well, at least been to a workshop, and they're, going through the audios and doing what they're supposed to do. But whenever before the workshop, always reestablish posture. Always reestablish posture. Don't get into a convincing, you're going to love this. I'm glad you're there. Glad you answered the phone. You're going to love this interview. But, sometimes we come across like that because we get too anxious. I got one. He answered the phone. Okay? No. So all I'm saying is reestablish that posture again. Right? You got it. You got it. So... And then you're going to tell them what you've already told them again.
Yeah.
You've got to remind them. Okay, John, listen, you in front of a computer? Great. And you're online? It's actually going to go online? Okay. All right. What I want you to do, and again, like I said the other night, just to review, there's an info session coming up at Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. And you should have, once you nail that down, that they have that available. This is 3 days ago when you talk to them. Let them know they need to be there at least by 7:45 to meet these guys. Get a good seat, but meet these guys. I want you to meet them, get to know them a little bit before the meeting starts. At least by 7:45. Ideally, if you can get there by 7:30, it's all the better. Okay, sooner the better. You get to spend a little more time with them. But okay, so you're in front of a computer. All right. As I said, again, there's an info session at 7:45. At the Embassy Suites Tuesday night. Again, but before we can do that, this information I'm going to put you on to right now is real critical. Take some notes as you're going through all this stuff, because you need to connect on some of it. At least connect on the outline, kind of the conceptual overview, or it doesn't make any sense for you to get again to the Tuesday night meeting, to the Tuesday night info session. Better than meeting. Meeting. Strike the word meeting. It's old language. My old language is coming out, okay? But again, like I said before, John, because this is a filter. This saves you and I a lot of time. If you don't see anything on here that piques your interest, and that makes sense, then you don't need to go any further. Now, understand, again, what I'm going to put you on to now is not going to give you all the details. That's not the purpose of it. You're going to get a lot of information. But you're still going to have questions. You might have more questions than you had before. But our associate Kendra Stevens, she's going to lay in a lot of good information about what we're doing and why it makes sense in the marketplace today. And there's going to be a lot of different concepts to read through. There's a 6-minute video from Kendra, but then there's 4 pages of text to read through. You're going to get a lot of information. Take some notes on that. Okay? But the purpose of this is to determine interest level, too, to see if you at least connect on some of these concepts. Now, exactly how the money's made, those kind of details have to be told at the info session. We are regulated by the Federal Trade Commission and the Attorney General's office. And that's really important to understand. I always say that. That's important to understand because there's so many pyramids online. We're not just an online business, we're real people offline working with online transactions. But there's so many pyramids and unethical businesses being done online right now. But we are not. We are regulated by the Federal Trade Commission and the Attorney Generals. And we have to get with people in person to show them the numbers and show them the income possibilities. We cannot do that online or over email or anything else. All right? That's why that information is at the info session. But again, more important than ever, this is just to see if you have business mentality where they're looking for entrepreneurial thinking kind of people or out-of-the-box thinking people. So determine, depending on how you react to that, this, 10 minutes of information will determine whether we need to get together and meet these guys on Tuesday night. Does that sound fair enough?
Yes, it does.
Did I leave anything out? I don't think so. I mean, I'm not reading this, but I've read it a million times. I'm making sure I hit all those concepts. I might say it a little different every time, but I talked about the math has to be done in person because we're regulated by the FTC and the Attorney General's office. It's not going to give you all the details. You're still going to have more questions. The purpose of it is to determine interest level and see if you connect in some of the concepts. Because if you don't, it doesn't make sense to go any further. It's determine if you got entrepreneurial thinking or employee thinking. Does that sound fair enough, John? Does that sound fair enough again? Does that sound fair enough? Oh, yeah. Because why would somebody be upset about that? But so you're being nice about it, but you're being postured about it. And then you call them back in 15 minutes, and when you call them back in 15 minutes, if they have a million questions, it's like, they weren't listening to anything I said. Right? Now, if you've set that up right, they shouldn't have a lot of questions, or if you set that up like I just told you, and they do have a lot of questions, they're not who you're looking for, because they're already not listening to you. Okay? If they really have a lot of questions, they're like, yeah, I mean, that's, but most of the time they're just go, you know what, that's not for me. Or, I didn't see anything, this is what always is interesting. I didn't see anything that interested me. Really? I'd at least want to know what these people were doing. There's a lot of information on that PQV. There's a lot of information.
That blows my mind too.
I mean, you didn't see anything on there that interests you at all. But doesn't that help you guys realize that's why it's a good filter? If they say that, I see that you gotta have a pulse, maybe they don't then.
Or if they say, I don't understand what the business is about.
Right.
It's like,
That wasn't the purpose of it. It was determine if you're really looking for something, the info session was gonna fill in the blanks. And you've told them that, and you've told them again, okay? And then they're not a looker. Because somebody that's hungry, now the people really hungry, they didn't even care how, before you even got to that girl was gonna be here, right?
Yep.
Those are the ones you're really looking for.
There's an application at the end. What is that?
So,
Are we
now,
having them do that? Not been doing it.
hit me again with that.
There's an application at the end now that they're supposed to fill out. Has anybody else
Really?
seen this?
No.
That's if you click, do you wanna learn more or something like that at the very end.
Oh, is
But
that
you
what's
don't- you-
happening?
Yeah, they click on something.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, if they click on it, then that's their problem. But that application is going into internet heaven, so we ain't following up on that. You know? It's gone. So questions now.
I have one that might be kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, because this could bring up questions.
Is there, what are some good ways to, start the question? Because I know one of my main things is, hey, do you keep your options open when it comes to making money? Because a lot of times these people are right in front of me, but sometimes they're not talking, and we're not really talking much. But I want to talk to them, I want to ask them, but how do I bring that up sometimes? Are there a couple different things maybe? I
I don't know if we got time to delve into that, because that's a
Okay.
long answer.
Okay.
But always, whenever you ask a question, make sure you
guess
throw in
I-
posture in. I didn't hear posture come out of it. I can't promise you anything, but you ever,
No,
make sure you're.
then I
but-
say that. I'm just saying to start it, say, hey, do you keep your options open when it comes to making money? And then I say, well, I can't promise you anything, but
Yeah.
I'm working with the business team and,
But what is,
but I'm just saying to open that door, when they're not when they're not opening a door, I guess. Most people, when you're sitting talking to them, conversating, they open a door. They start talking about their work. I'm asking questions, of course, and they're answering the questions like, well, yeah, this is what I do, but I'm hoping to do this, and, you know, I let them tell me, and they open the door usually.
Right.
Say, well, actually.
But
you
you're
know,
saying, what if they don't open the
What
door?
if they don't? Yeah, like, what's a good thing to like start?
I'll just say, hey, maybe you can help me, you know?
Yeah.
I'm working with a business development team and they're expanding the project, they got more business they can handle, they're having a hard time finding good people. That's what I do,
Yeah, that's a good one.
you know? Maybe you can help me. Do you know anybody? You know,
I
we're
guess
working with a
sometimes
business.
for me, it just comes out sometimes awkward.
Well, you know,
Because it's, I don't know, like, with,
Just keep
when they're
doing
not
it.
saying anything.
yeah,
I'm like,
I mean, I think that's the answer. I mean, you guys, there's a lot of situations where you don't, you know, a lot of you like to develop those relationships with people, get to know them a little bit before you pop the question. But I mean, you can walk up to somebody you don't even know, you know, in the right situation. You may not have time to have that conversation with them. You might be going through a drive-through real quick, but there's not a car behind you. Hey, maybe you can help me. You're a young guy, you know? No, you guys have done it. You can do it. Maybe you can help me. I'm working with a business development team. You know, they're looking for some people to expand a tech project. They can't find good people down here. And I say that all the time. I'm having a hard time finding good, accountable people in this area. And we are. But they're out there. You ask that question, that do you know anybody 20, you know, between 20, 30, 33, 34 years of age? It's more young people than ever that we're working with who understand online transactions and texting and Facebook and all this stuff. You know, do you know anybody in that age category that's ambitious and accountable? Because we're having a hard time finding. I do that all the time. You know, you don't have to necessarily have a conversation and have a mini relationship with somebody before you pop the question. Now, you can, and if you have that opportunity to develop that relationship, that's fine too. But, you know, those who ask the question most are going to win.
Yeah.
How many times can you ask the question? But anyway, and this we're getting late here, but you guys, I thought I'd share a lot tonight because I'm not going to be back till December. You're not going to have me. You're not going to worry about me getting in your way for the next couple weeks here, because Lynn and I are going on vacation. Okay.
I got hit platinum then.
But we're going up to see our girls in Maryland for about 6 days, and then on the way back, we'll be here for about a day or two, and then we're going to go to Achievers, and all kinds of cool stuff we're doing.
Where's Achievers at?
I don't know. I think it's in Orlando. It's a long trip, but somebody got to do it. So,
Got any recognition?
but Mike Kenny is going to do one of those info sessions here in the next week or two. I believe he might be here next week. Okay, again. Can you believe that?
Yeah, showed him there.
Anybody get anything done this week that you want to get recognized? I don't. I mean, usually we haven't broken any pins. It's too early in the month to recognize that kind of stuff. But any exciting retail sales anybody did?
I actually just want to bring attention to Liz. This is her second
This
look.
is her second
This is her
time
second
only.
look. We sat down,
We
right,
should
got
have-
together this week. We made a bunch of calls.
Yes.
And we had two guests for
Two
tonight.
really excited ladies were here for Liz tonight. This is just her second workshop. Last week was her first workshop, and yeah, that's what we want to do. Exactly.
It gets a little better because both ladies that were here with her, very, very sharp girls. I kind of like explained that. I said, Liz just got started. It's only her second look. They said, well, will you do that with us?
Yeah,
So
see,
when I do these follow-throughs, they're expecting to make some phone calls and get people
Wow,
to
that's
next
cool.
week.
now, that is a tremendous example.
When you get people who are, business-minded, ambitious, really want to do something, and are willing to let you help them, that you get that kind of effect. So
That
it's
is a
exciting.
phenomenal example, and that's what we are. I always want anybody, anybody comes back a second time and brings somebody with them, we always want to recognize that. Sometimes you guys need to bring it to my attention. Gosh, I thought this was your third workshop. That's really impressive. That's really impressive. And you had two here tonight, and that's because I know, he's been telling me on voicemail that you're a great student, and you just, whatever Mike said, you did, And that's what I did. It wasn't that hard. I just like, tell me what to do, I'll do it. So anyway, all right. Well, hey guys, have a great week. A lot of you will see Saturday on the 19th. I got tickets. I also got forms for Dream Weekend in the back. I got Ron Ball books. I've got some product packs, whatever you need, we got. All right, have a great week.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks,
I've
guys.
been-
Tore it up. That's great. Here's
Situation. None of that.